My name is Jason Hattrick-Simpers. I'm a professor in the Department of Material Science and Engineering at the University of Toronto. I have a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Physics from Rowan University, and then I did my PhD in Material Science and Engineering at the University of Maryland. Afterwards, I did a National Academy of Sciences postdoc at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I then was an assistant professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering in the University of South Carolina for a number of years before returning to NIST as a staff scientist in the AI for Materials group. My research really comes down to combining high throughput experimentation in AI to build scientific robots to address specific materials problems that are sort of vital to promoting the green economy in Canada. For instance, if you consider Canada's 2030 goals for the reduction of carbon emissions by 40%, in order to accomplish that, we need a rather broad portfolio of green energy technologies. The problem is that for many of these applications, we don't have the sort of killer app or killer material that we need in order for these to be cost equivalent with our current methods of generating, storing, and transporting energy. And that's a fascinating problem, but it's even cooler because if you consider what we want from these materials is not only their figure of merit or the properties that they have, but we would like for them to be earth abundant. We'd like for them to be relatively inexpensive and easy to process so that they can plug and play into existing technologies. If you think about it, it's a lot like cooking, right? It's fine dining level of cooking where it's not enough to have rice and cream to make risotto. You have to understand how to bring the ingredients together, cook them for just long enough in order to sort of optimize that texture and flavor. We have the same problem in materials. And again, you consider there's 5 or 6 elements in a typical standard alloy. If we think about our periodic table, there are 30 elements that we could combine that are earth abundant, non-toxic, and relatively inexpensive. That's billions of possible alloys. And so my research really focuses on how do we systematically and as efficiently as possible explore this massive composition and processing space to identify new materials for these types of applications. Our lab is Autodial, which stands for the Lab for the Autonomous Discovery of Alloys. And so what our lab does is it leans heavily on my previous expertise in automating high throughput experiments. What this means is rather than making a single sample or a single risotto at a time, we make hundreds of samples at a given go and then characterize them all using multimodal techniques for their different figures of merit, structure, and processing parameters. Another one of the sort of foci of the group is on the development of autonomous research engines, which means that you take these automated tools that you're developing and then you place an AI brain in charge of running the experiments. And the goal is not to run 100,000 or 1 billion experiments. The goal is to perform the most informative experiment at any given time by using processes or concepts such as active learning. And so you could imagine having an array of potential materials that you could investigate, measuring a handful of them to get an idea of how the figure of merit is going to vary over those materials, and then modeling that, identifying which of those materials could potentially be interesting to look at next. Look at that one, and then update your global model of all your materials and how they behave.